Meet the Expert, a knowledge-sharing initiative of your knowledge partner, the Developing Bangladesh. We discuss on trade, investment, commerce, education, skills, economic development, global peace and prosperity, etc. issues. If you are interested to these issues, please subscribe to the channel. Developing Bangladesh, your knowledge partner, please subscribe now.
Not only just your presence, but you want them to remember your name and to repair the mispronunciation of your name. If somebody doesn't ask, just say back to them, that was a good try, but my name's actually pronounced, and say it with a smile, say it kindly, and offer the correct pronunciation of your name. Because if you don't do that, then you're the reason it keeps getting mispronounced. That's your fault. So take the time. When you spend time on somebody's name, trust me, it is powerful. And allow yourself to be corrected. It's not weakness, it's power. Think of it that way. Then there's also the stage of how to remember a person's name. How do I remember your name? Well, there's different ways. I went through a program called the Dale Carnegie course. You may have heard of that, where we learn how to remember names. And quite frankly, I found it more confusing than helpful sometimes, because you're making a pyramid. I won't go into that right now. We won't want to put the time on that. But techniques to remember a name is that when you hear a name, do you have a relative with that name, that first name anyway? A friend, a relative. Have them come to mind as you're looking at that person. Is there, does it remind you of a song? My name, for example, if I want you to remember that my name is Gloria, I might reference like the song by the Shadows of Night. Gloria, Gloria. Now, I don't sing, but oftentimes people will associate my first name with that song. And sometimes, as funny as this sounds, they'll actually start spelling it out to me because it triggers the memory of that song. Certainly my name is in Gloria Hallelujah. That's another one. Certainly my name, I can reference a movie star. I can think Gloria Estefan. So if I meet a Gloria, I might have any of these pieces come to mind to help me remember that name. Just share, and probably the best way, because we can spend a whole hour on techniques on remembering names, is to discuss it with your friends, with your family members, and ask, what do you do? How do you remember a person's name? And you'll learn more by doing that. And then there's handling challenging names and accents. And accents are just a part of our life today. That is just where we are. There are so many different pronunciations of the same spelling of a name. And that can be mind-boggling right there. But when you have a challenging name, take ownership of it. Realize that other people are going to be challenged by your name. Take the time to help them understand and get your name correctly. And sometimes, and this happens a lot, you don't even have to worry about small talk conversations. Your name and its history becomes a part of that small talk conversation. I would say that in my research and all the work that I've done over the years, I find people of other cultures like yours take more ownership on history of their name, more pride of their name, where we sometimes in the United States, Americans, take our name for granted. We don't really have that. Our first name represents this, our second name represents that, our third name or fourth name. There's a history, there's a culture, there's a where I was born, where I was raised, all of this as part of the name. And I find that very, very interesting when somebody gives me the history behind their name, and that's very, very engaging. And accent, realize that if you're talking to me and you have an accent, you don't have an accent. From my point of view, I'm listening to an accent. Hope that makes more sense to you. Then try to talk slower. Slow down. I talk fast, naturally. And when I do programs like this, I have to remind myself that I'm the one that is considered the accent. And I have to slow my pace down to make sure you understand what I'm saying, because I process one language in my head. It's called English. You're processing your language and English. You're processing two, maybe three, maybe four, but you're processing different languages in your head as you listen to a conversation, and the person talking needs to realize that might be happening. So that would be my best tip for you in handling challenging names. Again, a whole workshop can be built on that, but I think the best way is just to ask other people and practice. The bottom line is honoring a person's name shows respect for that person's name. And that, well, it shows respect for that person. Apologize, I said that awkwardly. Okay, now we've got the name. That's part of that introduction. Now we have to look at the handshake. Okay, greet with a handshake always. Certainly during COVID, that wasn't allowed. We kind of had to do this kind of thing. I don't know if that's where you're at now, if your country, your culture has gone back to the handshake. We're doing it gradually here. In some cases here in the United States, we're still doing this. And other cases in the United States, that handshake is right out there again because people are getting a little bit more comfortable with where the pandemic has been and where it is now. But that exchange is extremely, extremely important. So when I talk about the handshake protocol, also respect who initiates the handshake. Now, I know in your culture, if I have this correctly, that a man does not initiate a handshake with a woman. He waits for her to initiate the handshake. And that would be a protocol. So you need to understand the protocol of the handshake within the genders of a culture. In the United States, it's not necessarily the case. Here, whoever wants to take the initiative, regardless of gender, is going to initiate the handshake. The exception to that rule would be as it relates to the protocol of a title of somebody who's of higher rank. And in some cases, it's better if they do. But you will find that in Americans, typically, man or woman, doesn't matter the gender, we would just go right there with the handshake, where we have to be very, very careful with that when we're visiting other cultures, that we are not violating a protocol there or a comfort level. Then the other part of the handshake is the grip. Now, in the picture here on the slide here, you'll see this is a nice, strong grip. And some people don't know how to enter that grip with their hand. There is a technique. There is a positioning. If you look here on this particular slide here, how the hand is tilted down and the thumb is going forward to make sure that the point at the end of the thumb here and the point at the end of the thumb here, they connect first. Once this point, again, I'm trying to get my pointer back here. Once this connects with this part of the hand, then you close the grip. And the grip should be here in the palm of the hand, not in the finger. Sometimes people close the hand here where the fingers are, and that's weak. It sends a very weak, insincere message. And that might not be the message you're trying to send. I would hope not. But make sure it's there. The grip is right there. So understand grip messaging means that you are powerful. Now be careful of that, because when you initiate a handshake, and it looks like this one here, that delivers a very confident message. Now, earlier I said I would talk about your posture. We did that standing exercise, and I had you hold your thumb. I had you release your hands, and then I had you feel the posture. When you are in good, strong, confident posture, your handshake automatically is going to be stronger and more confident. So the body tells the hand how to grip. That's another reason to pay attention to good posture, because it delivers a stronger handshake. What you don't want to do is overgrip, where you grab the hand and you squeeze so hard the other person buckles at their knees. That's overconfident. That sends an opposite message. Too light. And then you also have to be careful, because in some cultures, like in the Asian culture, the handshake, but the bow is preferred. But when there is a handshake, it might be a little softer and weaker. In no way, shape, or form do you ever want to interpret that as weak, because that is the culture of their handshake. So it's very important to understand the culture of the handshake and the message that it delivers correctly. You can also tell when somebody's being kind of hesitant. I'll give you an example. If I attend an event and I shake hands with somebody and it's a little weak, and it's not culture related, I know it's just a sense of where they are at that moment, they're not feeling real confident, then I'm going to back up a minute, because their handshake gave me a message. It gave me some information that for whatever reason, that moment is being awkward for them. I'm going to take that and I'm going to try to get them more comfortable with the moment. And I might just have a chit chat with them and talk to them. And, at the beginning of the conversation, what brings you here? Might have a little personal conversation with them. Do you have family, children, pets? Sometimes it's easier to ask if somebody has pets or if they have children, because people who choose not to have children can get a little irritated if you ask that question. But if you ask if they have pets, they'll say no or yes or whatever. Sometimes that's a better avenue to take. But the point is, I want them comfortable with the moment. So the handshake opened the greeting. It's going to close it too. So the end of that conversation is, and I believe this is true in the Bangladeshi culture, that sometimes it's easier with a woman, is just a nod. A nod, eye contact with a nod is a handshake. It's a different kind of handshake, but it still is a handshake. It's just not physical, but it still counts, because it's all about the acknowledgement of that particular moment. You acknowledge that person in that space at that moment. An example I'm going to give you was when I was a speaker for an organization, and this particular conference was being held, of all the beautiful places, Disneyland. And we were at the hotel, and we were waiting for an entourage from Korea to arrive. Their flight had been late. And as I'm coming down the hallway, I saw the entourage of the Koreans, husband and wives, because the wives were accompanied at this event, even though for the most part, most of the husbands, some of the women were attending the event. And I saw them at the elevators, and I'm coming from one direction, and my alternate is coming from the other direction, and he just goes in there. I stopped because I knew that the bow was the comfort level of that culture, not the handshake. But in America, we just want to go out there and we want to dive in and we want to grab those hands. And if you're from Texas, that's really what they like to do in Texas. But anyway, I knew that would probably take them out of their comfort zone. So I stopped. Then I saw my alternate go in, and I could see their bodies just stiffen up like.
Developing Bangladesh, your knowledge partner. We take care of trade and investment, education and skills, economic diplomacy and economic development. If you would like to keep you updated on these issues, please subscribe to Developing Bangladesh. Thank you very much for watching till the last.